Canada holds a secret that might stay on your mind long after you hear it. This country is not part of some new world. Instead, it contains one of the oldest continuously inhabited landscapes anywhere on Earth, yet very few people recognize it that way. Across Canada stand structures that predate Stonehenge and are even older than the Egyptian pyramids. There are carefully arranged stones aligned with stars whose positions have changed over time. Ancient carvings portray boats that, according to accepted history, were never supposed to have been built in North America. There are burial mounds for children containing technology so sophisticated that humanity would not develop anything comparable again for thousands of years. On an island in Nova Scotia lies a mysterious underground shaft that has claimed the lives of 6 people and has resisted every effort to reach its bottom for more than 230 years. Every day, countless Canadians pass these places while driving along highways. Others paddle above them in kayaks. Some remain hidden behind barbed wire fences. Yet every one of these mysterious sites
It would
is
not be
connected by the same
reinvented for
5
millennia,
words.
and an
one can
underground
explain
shaft
it,
on a Nova
at
Scotia
least
island
not in a way
that has killed
answers
6
every
people
question.
and
So
defeated
here
every
are
attempt
15
to
ancient
reach its
structures
bottom
spread
for
across
230
Canada that
years.
continue to defy explanation.
Most Canadians drive past.
Number 15 is the Petroglyphs at Sprout Lake on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. If you have visited Sprout Lake before, chances are you went there for swimming or kayaking. What you probably missed were the ancient rock carvings located near the shoreline. Most visitors never notice them. These petroglyphs display flowing, wave-like patterns that researchers believe represent a legendary sea serpent or another mythical aquatic creature. Their exact age remains unknown because they have never been definitively dated. However, one fact is certain. The region surrounding Sprout Lake has been inhabited for roughly 13,000 years, making it one of the longest continuously occupied places on North America's west coast. Even more intriguing, the sea serpent design is not exclusive to this location. Comparable carvings of mysterious water creatures appear at petroglyph sites scattered across distant parts of North America. The identical symbol was created by cultures believed to have had no contact with one another despite being separated by thousands of kilometers. Was it simply coincidence, or does it point to something far more mysterious? Number 14 is the lay terrain stone structures hidden in the remote wilderness of southern Quebec. Unlike many archaeological mysteries, this story is still unfolding today. During the spring of 2019, a Quebec outdoorsman named Duran came across a remarkable collection of stone formations on a high, open hill deep within the forest. What he discovered appears to be a massive stone circle measuring approximately 750 meters in circumference and made up of at least 11 separate stone structures. No known civilization has ever been documented building stone circles of this size anywhere in Quebec. The location lies in isolated wilderness where there is no historical evidence of colonial farming or permanent settlement. After making the discovery, Duran uploaded a video to YouTube. The Quebec Ministry of Culture and Communications responded by sending specialists to inspect the site. The experts spent an entire day examining the area, followed by years of discussions through Zoom meetings. Yet as of 2026, no official excavation or scientific dating has taken place. For now, the site remains suspended in archaeological uncertainty, too fascinating to ignore, yet too poorly studied to confirm exactly what it is. Archaeologist Andy White has explained that determining the original purpose of piles or lines of stones can be especially challenging in regions where multiple explanations are possible. Until more research is carried out, the enormous stone circle remains deep in the forests of Quebec, waiting for someone to decide whether its mystery truly matters. Number 13 is the white-shelled petriforms in Manitoba, and the story behind their discovery is remarkable all by itself. In 1966, a university student entered the office of anthropology professor Jack Steinbring at the University of Winnipeg and said, "We were flying over Whiteshell Forest Preserve, and we think we discovered the ruins of an ancient city." Steinbring initially assumed the student had greatly exaggerated the discovery, but when the student returned with photographs showing long rows of massive boulders, Steinbring decided to investigate for himself. What he uncovered was the Tie Creek site, now recognized as the largest petriform site in North America. Covering approximately 9 acres, the site contains an interconnected network of stone formations, including one structure stretching more than 100 feet in length. Giant boulders were carefully arranged on the flat bedrock of the Canadian Shield around 2,000 years ago to create turtles, serpents, fish, human figures, and intricate geometric designs. The Anishinaabe people know this sacred place as Manitwabi, meaning where the spirit sits. Knowledge keeper Diane Matiasing explains that these stone formations represent the original teachings for living in harmony with the earth. The location is considered both immensely important and extremely fragile. Because of this, in 1979, the Manitoba government assigned prisoners to construct an 8-foot-high steel fence topped with barbed wire around the entire 9-acre site. The need for protection became painfully clear in 2017 when a sacred snake petriform, the nearby Bannock Point site, was vandalized. Someone rearranged its ancient stones into an inukshuk, destroying a 2,000-year-old teaching symbol in order to create a modern tourist landmark. Elder Ron Bell has spent 63 years caring for roughly 200 petriforms throughout Whiteshell, beginning when he was only 7 years old. No one knows who first arranged these stones, and researchers continue to debate why these particular shapes were chosen. The ruins of an ancient city, the student had claimed. To this day, nobody has been able to prove that he was wrong. Number 12 is Writing on Stone, known to the Blackfoot people as Asenape, located in the Milk River Valley of southern Alberta. It contains the greatest concentration of rock art found anywhere on the Great Plains of North America. Thousands of petroglyphs and pictographs cover the sandstone hoodoos and towering cliffs throughout the area. The site was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2019. Some of the oldest carvings are believed to date back between 3,000 and 5,000 years. Many portray figures and scenes that researchers still cannot fully understand or interpret. The Blackfoot Confederacy regards this place as a sacred location where the spiritual world exists closest to the physical one. But one detail transforms this site from merely extraordinary into something deeply unsettling. According to Blackfoot tradition, the spirits themselves created some of these carvings. Not every image, but certain ones. Specifically, the carvings that no one has ever been able to explain. Number 11 is the Moose Mountain Medicine Wheel in southeastern Saskatchewan. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than a stone medicine wheel built on a hilltop. A central cairn is surrounded by an outer ring connected by radiating spokes. Its design seems straightforward, but it is anything but simple. Those spokes line up with the sunrise during the summer solstice, as well as the rising positions of several bright stars, including Aldebaran, Rigel, and Sirius. This indicates that the builders possessed advanced astronomical knowledge and carefully observed the movement of the night sky over long periods. What makes this site truly remarkable is that those stellar alignments are no longer perfectly accurate. Over the centuries, they have shifted slightly because of axial precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that gradually changes where stars appear to rise. The stone alignments match the positions of those stars as they would have appeared roughly 2,000 years ago. In other words, the sky itself has changed since these stones were placed. That tiny discrepancy is not a mistake, it is evidence of their age. Rather than being a flaw, it serves as a timestamp written across the heavens by people who lived and died nearly 2,000 years ago. One question has never been answered convincingly. How could a nomadic plains culture that followed migrating bison herds develop and preserve such precise astronomical knowledge across countless generations without recording it in writing? How did they teach each new generation to read the sky with enough accuracy to position stones that would continue marking celestial events 2,000 years into the future? Whatever method they relied upon, it was undeniably effective. The heavens themselves prove it. Number 10 is the Augustin Mound at Red Bank on the Miramichi River in New Brunswick. In 1972, a gravel company was actively removing part of a large earthen mound near the river. Mi'kmaq chief Joseph Augustin stepped in to stop the destruction. When he was a child, his father had brought him to the mound and shared stories about their ancestors gathering and dancing around the site. That oral history, often dismissed by outsiders as unimportant, ultimately led to one of the most significant archaeological discoveries ever made in eastern Canada. Excavations inside the mound uncovered a burial containing remarkable copper artifacts, including what appeared to be a ceremonial copper headdress. Those objects were identified as belonging to the Adena culture, a civilization traditionally associated with the Ohio River Valley. The mystery is obvious. The Ohio River Valley lies more than 1,500 kilometers to the southwest. Burial mounds built in the Adena style are not supposed to exist anywhere in maritime Canada. That leaves only two possibilities. Either the Adena people traveled much farther than historians once believed, or an enormous network of trade and cultural exchange connected distant regions of North America approximately 2,500 years ago. The copper itself most likely originated in the Great Lakes region, once again more than 1,500 kilometers away. Without the oral tradition preserved by a Mi'kmaq elder, this mound would almost certainly have been reduced to a parking lot. Instead, it fundamentally changed what archaeologists understand about ancient connections stretching across the continent. If you've made it this far, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing it with your friends and family. It costs nothing, and we regularly bring you new videos exploring the history and mysteries of our country. Number 9 is Kayna-Kaiwanung, also known as the Manitou Mounds, located along the Rainy River in northwestern Ontario, near the borders of Manitoba and Minnesota. This remarkable site consists of an extensive complex of ancient burial mounds at Manitou Rapids, an area that served as an important gathering place and fishing location for thousands of years. The largest mound rises to approximately 7 meters in height. Today, the site is recognized as a National Historic Site and is managed by the Rainy River First Nations. Its name translates to the place of the Long Rapids. What makes Kayna-Kaiwanung truly exceptional is that it remained continuously occupied for more than 8,000 years. That is a longer uninterrupted history than any city in Europe. Artifacts recovered from the burial mounds include materials that originated in the Gulf of Mexico, the Rocky Mountains, and the Atlantic coast. A single archaeological site in northwestern Ontario maintained connections reaching virtually every corner of the continent. Around 2,000 years ago, an immense trade network stretched across North America, and one of its major hubs was a collection of burial mounds beside a river flowing through the Canadian Shield, a place that most Canadians have never even heard of. Even today, archaeologists have never completely excavated the entire mound complex. What additional discoveries remain buried beneath the ground is still anyone's guess. Number 8 is Oak Island. If you've spent any time on the internet during the past decade, you've almost certainly heard about this place. But there are important details the television shows rarely mention. In 1795, 3 teenagers exploring a 140-acre island off the coast of Nova Scotia noticed a strange depression in the ground and decided to dig. They uncovered what appeared to be a carefully constructed shaft, complete with platforms made of oak logs spaced every 10 feet. When they reached a depth of about 90 feet, they discovered a large flat stone engraved with mysterious inscriptions. Shortly afterward, the shaft suddenly filled with water. It has continued flooding ever since. For more than 230 years, treasure hunters have attempted to reach the bottom of what became known as the Money Pit, yet no one has ever succeeded. Evidence suggests the shaft may have been intentionally protected by an elaborate system of flood tunnels connected directly to the sea, turning it into what appears to be an ancient booby trap. At least 6 people have lost their lives while attempting to solve the mystery. According to a long-standing legend, 7 people must die before the treasure can finally be discovered. Whether that curse is real or not, the story has only grown stranger over time. Here is what investigators have actually uncovered. Deep underground, they found coconut fiber, an astonishing discovery because coconuts do not grow anywhere in Nova Scotia. They also recovered a lead cross dated to approximately 1200–1600 AD, centuries before the pit was supposedly discovered in 1795. A copper coin dated 1652 was also found, placing it 143 years earlier than the accepted discovery of the Money Pit. Human bones were recovered as well, and DNA analysis indicated ancestry from both the Middle East and Europe. Now consider who has tried to solve the mystery. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, long before becoming President of the United States, spent part of his youth searching for treasure on Oak Island. He came away empty-handed, just like everyone else. The Lagina brothers have documented their own search for the treasure on the History Channel for 13 seasons as of early 2026. During season 13, the investigation focused on what may be a second money pit. Meanwhile, the Oak Island Interpretive Center is scheduled to reopen in 2026 after remaining closed for 6 years. Some geologists argue that the entire Money Pit is nothing more than a natural sinkhole formed within limestone bedrock that was mistakenly interpreted as a man-made structure. If that explanation is correct, then the artifacts recovered from inside it become even more difficult to explain. After more than 230 years, the Money Pit has consumed more money, claimed more lives, and inspired more obsession than any other archaeological mystery in North America. Yet no one is any closer to explaining what lies at the bottom, or even whether there truly is a bottom at all. Number 7 is the Serpent Mounds at Rice Lake in Peterborough County, Ontario. This site is completely unique within Canada. It consists of a winding earthen effigy approximately 60 meters long, 8 meters wide, and up to 1.8 meters high, built on a bluff overlooking Rice Lake. Its shape unmistakably resembles a giant serpent. Surrounding it are 8 smaller circular or oval burial mounds, often referred to as the serpent's eggs. These mounds were constructed around 2,000 years ago, between 50 BCE and 300 CE, and contain the remains of at least 25 individuals. Archaeologists have recovered grave goods including shell beads, turtle shells, copper foil beads, and animal remains. Today, the site is recognized as a National Historic Site and is cared for by Hiawatha First Nation. The real mystery is this: why does Ontario contain a serpent-shaped effigy mound at all? The Great Serpent Mound in Ohio is world-famous, yet its Canadian counterpart has received far less scientific attention. The main axis running through the mounds follows an east-west alignment, suggesting a possible connection to the solstices. The burials also appear to represent different levels of social status. Some individuals were buried with valuable grave goods, while others were not, indicating the possibility of a stratified society. Even more intriguing, another serpent-shaped mound exists at Loch Nell in Scotland. Did serpent effigy mounds emerge independently in Ontario, Ohio, and Scotland, or was the concept somehow transmitted between cultures separated by vast oceans? As of 2024, and continuing into 2025, the University of Toronto's Art Museum has been working together with Hiawatha First Nation on a collaborative project called Mounds in Memory, combining Indigenous knowledge, academic research, and artistic interpretation to better understand the site. Canada has only one serpent-shaped effigy mound, and only now are researchers beginning to ask the questions that may finally reveal its true purpose. Number 6 is the Larder Lake Mystery Rocks in northeastern Ontario, east of Kirkland Lake. These are the kinds of discoveries that become more unsettling the longer you think about them. Along the shoreline of Larder Lake, resting on a broad expanse of exposed bedrock, sits a group of 18 enormous glacial erratics, massive boulders, some standing twice as tall as an average person. 4 of the largest stones are arranged along a north-south axis, lining up with Polaris, the North Star. The overall layout also corresponds with the sunrise and sunset positions during both the winter and summer solstices. Even more unusual, The nearby shoreline contains remarkably few boulders compared with neighboring areas. A report from the Ministry of Northern Development and Mines noted that the edges of the cleared area appeared unnatural, as though the overlying soil and surrounding boulders had been deliberately pushed aside. In 1992, Indigenous elder and shaman Fred Pine visited the site alongside archaeologists. As he stood among the stones, he said he could sense a powerful energy coming from the bedrock beneath them. He believed the location had been intentionally cleared long ago and identified it as a place of spiritual power. Nearby, the archaeological site at Pearl Beach provides evidence of continuous human occupation dating from approximately 6,000 BCE to the present day. If these enormous boulders were deliberately arranged, then who moved rocks standing twice the height of an average person, and by what method? If glaciers placed them naturally, then why do they line up with the solstices and Polaris, the North Star? Number 5 takes us beneath the surface of the water. Hidden below Lake Huron, on what was once a dry land corridor linking northeastern Michigan with southern Ontario, lies a collection of stone structures approximately 9,000 years old. That makes them twice as old as Stonehenge and twice as old as the Great Pyramids. The most important feature, known as the Drop 45 Drive Lane, has been described as the most sophisticated hunting structure ever discovered beneath the Great Lakes. It consists of 2 parallel rows of limestone blocks leading into a dead-end enclosure bordered with naturally rounded cobblestones. The entire structure was designed to funnel migrating caribou into a carefully planned hunting trap. These ancient constructions remained unknown until U.S. radar surveys detected an unusual formation on the lake floor. 9,000 years ago, the water level of Lake Huron was far lower than it is today, leaving a land bridge connecting Michigan and Ontario. Ancient hunters built these carefully engineered stone drive lanes across that landscape before it was eventually submerged. The engineering involved parallel stone walls directing animals toward a cul-de-sac trap, suggests a level of planning and organization far beyond what was once believed possible for people living 9,000 years ago. Now consider the truly unsettling part. This entire prehistoric landscape, complete with its engineered hunting system, lies beneath one of the busiest recreational waterways in North America. Every summer, millions of people boat, swim, and fish on Lake Huron, completely unaware that they are floating above the remains of a civilization older than anything ever built in Europe. Virtually no one on the surface realizes what lies below. Number 4 is the Majorville Medicine Wheel. Known to the Blackfoot as Omoksikimi, meaning simply Old Big, it stands on an elevated stretch of prairie in southern Alberta, south of Bassano. The monument consists of a central cairn surrounded by an outer stone ring measuring approximately 30 meters in diameter, with 28 radiating spokes extending outward. Its age exceeds 5,000 years. That makes it older than Stonehenge and older than the Egyptian pyramids. Both Omoksikimi and Stonehenge are located at virtually the same latitude, 51 degrees north. Their central stone circles each measure roughly 30 meters across, and the 28 spokes correspond closely to the lunar month. Among the 46 stone alignments documented by Alberta archaeologists, this site has produced the oldest radiocarbon dates. Retired chemistry professor Gordon Freeman devoted 28 years to studying the monument. He argued that it forms an extraordinarily precise 26 square kilometer stone calendar capable of marking seasonal changes even more accurately than the modern calendar we use today. Most archaeologists remain cautious, pointing out that the monument sits on a glacial moraine where naturally occurring stone arrangements can sometimes be mistaken for intentional construction. But one statement is difficult to forget. Siksika Nation Elder Crane Bear said of Omoksikimi, "Our stories say it was here before us. We are newcomers, we do not know who started that out there. Think about what that means. The very people whose ancestors have lived in this region for countless generations still consider themselves newcomers compared with whoever originally built this monument. No one, not archaeologists, not the Blackfoot, knows who placed the very first stone. More than 5,000 years ago, someone stood on this prairie hilltop and decided to construct a calendar. We do not know their name. We do not know the language they spoke. We do not know whether they even had a word for what they were creating. All we know is that it still stands today. Number 3 is the Peterborough Petroglyphs. This is where the list shifts from simply mysterious to genuinely unsettling. Located inside a provincial park northeast of Peterborough, Ontario, the site contains more than 900 carvings, with some sources estimating as many as 1,200, all engraved into a single slab of white crystalline marble measuring approximately 55 meters long and 30 meters wide. The carvings depict people, shamans, animals, solar symbols, geometric designs, and boats. The site is recognized as a National Historic Site and is sacred to the Anishinaabe, who call it Kinamajupkong, meaning the rocks that teach. Flowing beneath the marble is an underground stream that produces unusual sounds. Indigenous traditions interpret those voices as spirits speaking from beneath the earth. Today, the ancient carvings are preserved inside a climate-controlled glass enclosure to protect them for future generations. Mainstream research dates the carvings to between 900 and 1400 CE, attributing them to Algonquian or Iroquoian-speaking peoples. For spiritual reasons, photography is strictly forbidden at the site. But this is where the mystery becomes far more complicated. First, there are the boat carvings. They look nothing like indigenous birch bark canoes. Instead, they resemble solar boats, stylized vessels with a long mast crowned by the image of the sun, a design also found in petroglyphs across northern Russia and Scandinavia. Some of these boats even feature figureheads at both the bow and stern, a characteristic normally associated with large ocean-going ships. The Algonquian peoples of this region had no known sailing tradition. Their watercraft were birch bark canoes. So why did they carve ships? Second, one of the largest figures is shown standing with its hands on its hips, while a halo of rays extends outward from its head. It appears to represent a sun deity, yet there is no documented tradition of sun worship among the indigenous peoples of this region. Third, researchers have identified symbols within the carvings that resemble markings found on ancient megalithic monuments at Lewes, England, suggesting possible links to European traditions dating back to approximately 3100 BCE. Fourth, some researchers affiliated with Harvard proposed that the carvings might actually represent inscriptions left behind by Norse or even Celtic visitors who reached Canada thousands of years before Columbus. The heavy weathering visible on several glyphs has led some researchers to believe they could be far older than 900 CE. For centuries, the site remained unknown to non-Indigenous people until 1954, when a prospector named Everett Davis accidentally discovered it while searching for valuable minerals. Instead of finding rocks he could sell, he uncovered 900 sacred carvings. The rocks that teach contain boat images that resemble Scandinavian vessels, a sun god from a culture with no known tradition of sun worship, and symbols that closely resemble those carved into 5,000-year-old English megaliths. According to Indigenous tradition, spirits speak from beneath the stone. Photography remains forbidden. The unanswered questions vastly outnumber the explanations. And this is the part that makes the story personal. The Anishinaabe protected this sacred place from outsiders for centuries. They did not conceal it because they felt ashamed of it. They kept it hidden because they understood something about the site that the rest of us are still struggling to understand. When it finally became known to the outside world, it happened purely by accident. A prospector searching for rocks to sell stumbled upon rocks meant to teach. The rocks that teach were discovered by someone who was not searching for knowledge. Think about what that reveals about the way we often approach the land beneath our feet. Number 2 is the Alberta burial mound. This is where the list stops being an intellectual puzzle and becomes deeply emotional. Located on the Strait of Belle Isle in southern Labrador, Alberta is a romanticized version of the original name Anamore, meaning Cove of the Dead. It is the oldest known funerary monument in North America, dating back approximately 7,500 years. To understand just how ancient that is, consider this. The Egyptian pyramids are roughly 4,500 years old. Stonehenge is about 5,000 years old. This burial mound is older than both, and it was built for a child. The mound is circular, measuring roughly 8 to 10 meters across, and was constructed from large boulders covering a stone-lined burial chamber. Inside, archaeologists from Memorial University uncovered the skeleton of an adolescent. The body had been covered with red ochre, wrapped in animal skins or birch bark, placed face down, with the head pointing west, inside a burial pit approximately 1.5 meters deep. Fires had been lit on both sides of the body. Grave offerings were carefully arranged around the child. These included stone and bone spear points, a walrus tusk, paint stones, a bone whistle, and the earliest known toggling harpoon ever discovered anywhere in the world. Pause for a moment and think about that last detail. The toggling harpoon was a revolutionary technological breakthrough. It became the defining hunting tool for maritime peoples for thousands of years. Yet they chose to bury it with a deceased child. They possessed what was arguably the most advanced hunting weapon on Earth, and instead of preserving it for future hunts that could help their community survive the harsh winter, they placed it inside a grave. Preparing this burial would have required at least a full week of labor from a small local group living in a severe subarctic environment, where every day spent away from hunting or gathering food could mean the difference between survival and starvation. Whatever this child meant to those people, that relationship was worth an entire week of effort and their finest weapon. The maritime archaic people who built this monument remain only partially understood. We do not know the language they spoke. We do not know what they called themselves. We know they lived along this coastline between 9,000 and 3,500 years ago. We know they hunted seals and walruses. We know they possessed the technological knowledge necessary to invent the toggling harpoon. And we know that when one child died, they paused everything to construct a monument that would survive every civilization that followed. The mound was excavated in 1974 and later restored to its original form. It can still be visited today. A viewing platform and interpretive signs have been installed for visitors. The nearby hamlet of Alberta currently has a population of approximately 8 people. Just 8 people live beside the oldest funerary monument in the Americas. A 7,500-year-old expression of grief, remembrance, and love, preserved by almost no one, visited by almost no one, in a place that most Canadians would struggle to locate on a map. And now we arrive at number 1, the site everything on this list has been leading toward. It is a place that could fundamentally change our understanding of how humans first reached the Americas, yet almost no one will ever be allowed to visit it. These are the Bluefish Caves, located about 54 kilometers southwest of Old Crow in Yukon Territory. The site consists of 3 small caves, each measuring only 10 to 30 cubic meters, roughly the size of a typical bedroom. At first glance, there is nothing spectacular about them. There are no carvings, no monuments, and no impressive architecture. They are simply three openings in a hillside deep within the isolated wilderness of the Yukon. Inside those modest caves, archaeologists uncovered animal bones marked with cuts made by stone tools. The bones belonged to steppe megafauna, including mammoths, horses, bison, and caribou, animals that disappeared from North America thousands of years ago. Several of those bones displayed unmistakable evidence of human butchering. Then the radiocarbon dating results arrived. They indicated an age of approximately 24,000 years before present. 24,000 years. Take a moment to appreciate what that number actually represents. The Egyptian pyramids are around 4,500 years old. Stonehenge dates back about 5,000 years. The oldest known cities on Earth are roughly 10,000 years old. If the dating from Bluefish Caves is correct, then humans were already living in what is now Canada at a time when much of Europe remained buried beneath massive glaciers, when woolly mammoths still wandered across the continent, and when sea levels were low enough for people to walk from Siberia to Alaska across the land bridge known as Beringia. Those findings completely challenged what was once known as the Clovis first model. For decades, archaeologists believed that humans did not enter the Americas until about 13,000 years ago. The discoveries at Bluefish Caves pushed that timeline back by an astonishing 11,000 years. The consequences of that possibility are extraordinary. It would mean that human beings survived the last glacial maximum, the coldest phase of the most recent ice age in the Arctic, one of the harshest environments anywhere on Earth. And they accomplished this at least 11,000 years earlier than researchers once believed was even possible. But there is another side to the story. The dates remain highly debated. The stratigraphic context of the archaeological material is still uncertain. Natural geological processes may have shifted the bones after they were originally deposited. Some scientists argue that the marks on the bones were created by predators, not by human-made stone tools. That debate has continued for decades, and no final consensus has been reached. The caves themselves are closed to visitors. You cannot travel there. For most people, the closest they will ever come is seeing the life-size diorama displayed at the Yukon Beringia Interpretive Center in Whitehorse. The location that may preserve the oldest evidence of human habitation anywhere in the Americas remains untouched in the remote Yukon wilderness. Just 3 small caves. A handful of ancient animal bones. Marks on those bones that may, or may not, have been carved by a stone tool held in human hands 24,000 years ago. The answer to one of archaeology's greatest questions, when humans first arrived in the Americas, may ultimately depend on whether those tiny marks are scratches or intentional cuts.